and Facebook. Wherever you are, join the conversation. It's time to be informed, time to be empowered, time to be heard. The Political Podcast with Yowela Chomba. The Political Podcast, now live on Power 91.3 FM Lusaka, YAR 89.7 FM Kitwe, Power 87.9 FM Kabwe, Power 102.4 FM Livingston, and Beats TV Channel 92 on Topstar. The views expressed on this program are not the views of the platform or the presenter.
All right, welcome. It's the 4th of March, 2026, and we are back on another episode of the Political Podcast. My name is Yowela Chomba. As usual, we are here to discuss the political landscape as viewed from the lenses of various stakeholders. Today, our guest is Father Frank Bwalya. He's a media director under President Hakainde Hichilema's presidential support system. Welcome to the Political Podcast, Father Bwalya.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's a pleasure for me to be here, and I must say hello to everyone that is following this wonderful program.
Indeed. Just so you know, Father, we are live on all our radio platforms. That is starting with YAR FM, which is a sister station in Kitwe. It's on, YAR FM is on 89.7, so the whole copper belt is...
I was at Radio Chingilo when it started.
Is it? Yeah, so we are live on the whole of the copper belt through YAR FM, but Power FM Kabwe, 87.9, Power FM Lusaka, where we are now, which is 91.3, and Power FM Livingston 102.4. So on the radio waves, you're being heard, but on TV as well, Beats TV channel 92 on Topstar, so that's countrywide. Aside from that, of course, we're in the digital era, so of course Facebook Live on our Power FM page. The political podcast page is also live. So, and I'm sure you've shared on your page as well. So let's enjoy, and let's get talking. I have to mention to our listeners and viewers that we will open phone lines along the way. I'll share the number when that time arrives. But for now, allow us to get into discourse with Father Bwalya. So, once again, welcome to the Political Podcast. I think for the benefit, I have hosted Mr. Patrick Samwindila.
Yes.
I think you're in the same team.
Yes. I watched that program.
Oh, you did, yeah. So, but I remember I asked him this question, but I'll ask again for the benefit of those that missed Mr. Patrick Samwindila's, presence here. What are the roles and responsibilities of the presidential support system?
I will explain it because my brother did a good job, Patrick, when he was here, but I will explain it in this manner. When you look at the body, the human body,
yes, it
has different parts. And the Bible also, I think St. Paul uses this imagery to explain certain things. So you have, for instance, the brain. And it's very important, very, very important. It coordinates the systems within the body.
Right.
It's also a link between what is happening outside and what is happening inside, and so on. But it never comes out.
Right.
It's always logged in that place, God designed, and it does its unique role.
Right.
You have the hands, they are the ones that get dirty, they are out there doing this and that and so on, but the hands cannot get themselves to a place where they want to work.
Of course.
The legs will have to do it.
Right.
So when you look at government, it can be looked at in the same manner. But we are not part of government, we are on the side of the party. The party similarly is arranged in a similar manner. So our unit, the Presidential Support Unit, has a specific role to promote our flag bearer, who happens to be President Hakainde Hichilema, as the leader, the president of the United Party for National Development.
Right.
So our focus is primarily on the president, and that's why even our name says it. Presidential support system, presidential support program, and during elections, presidential campaign team. So we focus on the president. However, we must hasten to mention that we cannot campaign for the president in isolation.
Right.
We campaign for the president within a specific environment, a specific space. And because the president is at the pinnacle, is the flag bearer.
Right.
He draws in a lot of people because the pronouncements that, for instance, the president makes have to be implemented, not by him directly, but the people charged with that responsibility. So our focus as presidential support system is on the president, to campaign for the president, to promote the president, to come to the defense of the president where necessary. Maybe on this program we'll be talking about the recent shameful attack on the president,
right. Yeah.
which has led to the arrest of Dr. Membe,
right.
As they say in
So
Bemba.
it's one of my questions.
Amali wiyakuilombela.
Yeah.
Chimbuku itempashina choshamububa.
Maybe you can say it in English.
Amali wiyakuilombela, it means.
Explain to us what that is.
There are also similar sayings in English,
yeah.
but I can't get one immediately on top of my head. But simply to say, doing something that is tantamount to inviting trouble upon yourself deliberately.
Is it as close to your report also?
Yes,
okay.
yes,
okay.
Yes.
All right.
So that's our role, to see that our president is grounded, is rooted, and how do you do that? We plan activities, undertake those activities that enhance the image of the president, the performance of this president, and by so doing, we end up also talking about government programs.
Of course.
Because government programs are informed by the UPND manifesto. That's the system that we have agreed as Zambians to use. When there was PF, the manifesto was, government programs were inspired by the PF manifesto.
Right.
The UPND is in place, and that's why people are seeing the difference. The emphasis is different. What you prioritize is different.
Right.
When you do things is different. The people are different, but the same government, the same people of Zambia who have given the mandate to the UPND. So our vision is to see a president that is acceptable to the Zambian people, a president that the Zambian people will see his achievements and vote for him. In this case, in the case of President Hakainde Hichilema for a second term.
Right.
But after that, other UPND candidates, presidential candidates, that they can be elected and that the UPND can continue implementing its development agenda for this country.
Right. Before we even go deep, I want us, since we already touched on it, Dr. Fred Membe's arrest 2 or 3 days ago, obviously spurred from his comments and attack on President HH. What's your take on that?
I want to believe that the matter has not yet gone to court, so
right.
we can speak freely
for now,
without
yes.
fear of being cited
yes, of course, yeah.
for contempt. We want to say seriously that whichever way you look at what Dr. Fred Membe said, and I worked with him, I was national chairperson for mobilization Socialist Party. I was also spokesperson of the party. So I know who I'm talking about. I know the outfit he represents, the Socialist Party. So I'm not speaking from a point of ignorance in terms of understanding what his strategies may be and so on. So I was trying to make a point that whichever way you look at what he said, whichever route you take, the destination would be the same. That President Dr. Fred Membe has helped Zambians to see who he is and not to consider him for the highest office in this land, that of head of state. What do I mean? Let's take it that you take the route that he was just politicking in what he said.
Right.
Then that's not the kind of leader Zambians will vote for. That's not the kind of leader Zambians would want to preside over the affairs of this country. That is, if he were politicking. Because you can't politic on such a serious matter. We're talking about the death of a former head of state. You're talking about an impasse where he remains unburied because of the legal issues that have arisen out of a situation that is clearly not to be blamed on government. Every reasonable Zambian, unless those who want to use the death of President Edgar Chagwa for political mileage, to use it to attack President Hakainde Hichilema, unless those, but the rest of Zambians have followed what has happened in this matter. So if Dr. Fred Membe was politicking, he has exposed himself, he has shown to the Zambian people that he is not to be trusted and given that responsibility of governing this country. If you look at it from another angle, because the premise I started with was whichever avenue,
of course,
whichever way you look at it, you arrive at one destination,
of course,
confirming that President Dr. Fred Membe does not have what it should take for somebody to be head of state.
Right.
So let's take it that he was genuinely, or is genuinely, of the view that the delayed burial of President Lungu is because HH wants his body. If he genuinely believes that, that is even more serious. Because in the first place, what does it mean, HH wanting the body of Edgar Lungu? What does that mean? It doesn't mean anything. It is meant to mislead. Now, when somebody is sitting in a village somewhere, somebody is sitting in a compound somewhere, my mother is listening to the radio and listening to Dr. Fred Membe, and those who may not know him will just think that he's one of those politicians, one of those accomplished businessmen and so on, turned politician, and probably being very educated, he knows what he's talking about. The potential to mislead is very high. It's very, very high. So people would be saying, oh, so President Lungu is not buried because President HH wants to have that body. To have it for what? So if Dr. Membe believes that President Lungu remains unburied because HH wants his body, that is a serious indictment on his leadership. Very, very serious indictment. Let's also look at another route. Let's say, for instance, he was only using this to have a go at President Hakainde Hichilema, which has been his habit for a long time. There is a radio station somewhere where they've paid, I'm not criticizing the radio station, where they've paid for airtime. I'm not sure if that program still runs, where every week, I think on a Wednesday or a Tuesday, I can't remember exactly, he goes on that program literally abusing President Hakainde Hichilema. And Zambians should commend the president that he never answers back. Even when the attack is so malicious, is so poisonous, is so scandalous, the jabs that this man throws at President HH never answers. So that example I used of the body,
right?
When somebody is under attack, it's not the brain that goes out to go and defend.
It's the hands.
It's the hands. It's the legs. The rest of the body to run. So the presidential support system, ourselves, we have a role to play there because we are those hands, we are those legs to defend the president. Not physically in terms of fighting, but explaining, such as we are doing on this program.
Right.
Because President Hakainde Hichilema is the brain of government, inspiring the entire system, providing leadership, instilling instability in the country, making sure that the policies as contained in the UPND manifesto are domesticated, are implemented in the manner government programs are designed, so that you have stability, for instance, in the mining sector. So that problems that we have had in the mining sector, where the UPND found the mines in courts, in courtrooms. You can't have an open pit in a courtroom.
Right.
You need to go underground. You need to go into an open pit, do the mining. You need to employ people. You need to pay taxes. And when you pay taxes, ZRI collects that money, goes to Control 99, I think that's what they call it. Then the government is able to pay the thousands of civil servants, including those recently employed and those yet to be employed. So the president is that brain, will not come out. So we come out to defend the president. And when we defend the president, we don't do it because it's our responsibility. And even when the president is wrong, we come to the defense of the president. Not at all. The president has done no wrong in this matter. Now, talking about defending, I said the hands can do it, the legs can do it. But there are certain types of attacks under which the body may come, which may not be visible to the naked eye. For instance, when you have an infection, there is another system, the white blood cells and just the system that God has put in place, the self-healing system of the body and so on, to attack, to protect the body. So there are systems also within government. I think under that I would put the police and so on, who do jump in to make sure that that office, and it's not an office of President Hakainde Hichilema, it's an office of the Zambian people, the presidency. And that's the embodiment of the state itself, that it is protected and that those who break the law are arrested to account for it. Now, let me conclude on this one, on that premise of saying whichever way you look at it.
From
I was saying
Fred
that
Membe's
if
comments, yeah.
Dr. Membe had said those sentiments just to maliciously injure President Hakainde Hichilema, and therefore saying to him, asking a direct question, what do you want to do with the body of Edgar Lungu? Do you want to consume it? Do you want to eat it? That's very strong. That's very strong. And you know, this is a president who has suffered unfair attacks about being, for instance, a Satanist. He has suffered from these attacks for no genuine reasons. So when Dr. Membe says to President HH, what do you want to do with the body? You want to eat that body? You know, it makes people, it strikes a certain note in the minds of the people. Right. So it's deliberately done to create this impression that you have a president who is trying everything to have the body of President Lungu and then take it where? And that somehow aligns with what some PF officials, I didn't hear the family saying it directly, but some PF officials saying that it was the wish of President Lungu that President Hakainde Hichilema should not come anywhere near his body, which in itself is ridiculous. Because you can't allow somebody to come to your funeral and then you put a caveat to say they should never come anywhere near the body. Because when people go to mourn, when the head of state go to mourn somebody, and the stature of that somebody who has died demands that they are given an official funeral, state funeral, whatever it may be, the president has his own space.
Of course.
There is no way the president can say, oh, the body of President Lungu should be closer to me. Therefore, as the Mcheni Chandi, meaning too close, as the members would say. There is no such a thing. That would be an official program. And President Hakainde Hichilema, or indeed if we had a different president, it could have been President Lungu himself, who was in State House, and the former president has died. There is no way they would dictate such things. So if Dr. Membe did that deliberately, then again we can agree as Zambians that this is not the type of people we want to elect as president of this country and be in charge of our armed forces and make decisions. And finally, if maybe Dr. Membe suffers from some kind of sporadic or temporary insanity, and on that day he had this spell and then made those pronouncements, even then, because at the end of the day, how do you explain that a learned man with many doctorates, who has been an editor of a newspaper, well educated, well informed, not only about issues in Zambia, political issues, economic issues, but even globally, can sink so low to think that indeed why President Lungu is not buried is because the church wants his body? That's a very serious indictment. Very, very serious indictment. We have seen the so-called letter from the floor of police cells in Chilenje. You know what this man does? Is that when he deliberately breaks the law, such as he did, and he knows he'll be arrested, then he disappears, he runs away, and he writes those statements in advance and so on, gives to people who manage his Facebook page, say, no, they're likely to arrest me, so when they arrest me, in case they don't release me on the same day, the following day in the morning, this is what you should publish. It's all stage managed. And he's making a very big mistake to think that when he's arrested, Zambia gets to a standstill. One of the times when he was arrested, I can't remember what that case was exactly, but was arrested and I was a member of the Socialist Party. Then when he was released, we went to his house and he addressed us. You could see from the way he was speaking that this is a man who thinks that he's already president, who thinks that even him being given police bond on that day is because the system feared that the country will rise. This country will not rise to defend Dr. Membe when he has done something wrong.
Right.
This country has never risen to defend anyone when they did something wrong.
Right. Of course, you've mentioned that you are part of the Socialist Party, so I can't argue with some of the, coming from a point of knowing him very well. But speaking of, aside from Dr. Membe, speaking of the status quo of the late President Edgar Chagwa, that, whose body remains unburied 8 months down the line, how do you make of this situation with regards to morals as a Christian nation, just away from Dr. Membe and just as the issue generally? Who should take the blame?
It's a scandal.
Who should take the blame?
It's a national embarrassment. Some people would say it means that our institutions are incapable of resolving simple issues and so on. Not at all. Our institutions have got capacity to resolve national issues. Our courts have that capacity. The police have got that capacity. Government generally. Our institutions, including traditional institutions, have got that capacity. But when you are dealing with death, which has its own strong individual side on the part of the family, that is,
right,
it's very, very difficult. So I would blame entirely the family. Entirely the family. Because you see, it's maybe a blessing in disguise that when President Lungu died and there was that confusion about bringing his body and then the body was not brought, maybe it's a blessing in disguise that it has given the country enough time to go through, to process, redigest, process what actually happened. So who is to blame? Now, maybe before we answer that question, of course I've already answered it.
Yeah.
The question is, what is the gist of the impasse? What is that small thing which you can say, if we removed this, then we can move to the next stage and the next stage? Initially, we were told that the main thing was that President Lungu's will or wish was that President Hakainde Hichilema should not attend his funeral.
Right.
And since there was no indication from government to say, yes, we accept that wish, so bring the body, and the president will not attend. So the family and these PF people want now to create the impression that the only thing that is stopping the burial to go ahead is because the president has not agreed to step aside. That was the plot which has collapsed. Now, I want to say something about how I and many other people would agree to what I'm just about to say.
Yeah.
Those of us who interacted with President Lungu personally. And I wouldn't claim that I knew him better, interacted with him more than other people. No.
Right.
Much of the time when I interacted with him he was president. And everyone knows how the president, the system protects the president.
Right.
Even from those who may be looked at as friendly forces, the presidency is highly protected, because anyone can be used to harm the president.
Right.
And some people may not harm him physically, but may be chatting with the president, and then they go out to use his name in a criminal manner, or even to lie about the president and things like that. Some of them may eventually differ with the president, and then they begin to claim things. They could have seen things that never existed.
Right.
And then people will be saying, he used to be with them. There's no way what this person is saying cannot be true. So those of us who interacted with President Lungu can say from the bottom of our hearts that if indeed President Lungu had uttered such words, they should be taken as what happens to people when they confront death, when they realize that they are dying and they are panicking, and these things happen in our families, where somebody has a will, well written, everything, but then they remember how somebody injured them, it could even be a son, and then they verbally say, that one should not come to my funeral. And when the person dies and the funeral is being planned, the family totally ignores such a pronouncement. They stick with the written will, for instance. And sometimes even the written will is overruled because it's unreasonable. That is our culture. So I can say that if President Lungu had said that, it could have been, and I'm not trying to legitimize it, to say he said it. My gut feeling is that there's no way he could have said that. Because this is a man who honored and respected the declaration of Zambia as a Christian nation and did everything possible to actualize, to continue to consummate this declaration. This is a man that projected himself to all of us as a Christian, preaching love, preaching forgiveness, preaching reconciliation. So if I were a member of his family, and indeed he had made that pronouncement that the sitting head of state should not attend his funeral, I would have been one of those secretly behind the scenes saying to the family, look, if HH is going to attend the burial of our brother, God is not going to say to him, you are not going to be admitted to a kingdom of heaven because you allowed your your perceived political enemy to attend your funeral. In fact, the opposite would happen. That because you forgave, not that there was need to forgive President HH, because we don't know of anything that he could have done wrong to President Edgar Lungu, and I'm one of those who avoids this blame thing. I would never come to a program or anywhere with two lists or pieces of paper and say HH did this and Edgar Lungu did this. We as a nation should never take that path. It's not reconciliatory in nature. It's a blame game that does not that wouldn't take the country anywhere. When somebody dies, it is our culture that we bury our differences, then we bury that person. If there are issues to be discussed, you discuss them later.
Right.
So I don't believe that President Lungu could have done that. If President Lungu did that in his last days, we should have seen him doing similar things before. We should have seen him refusing to embrace certain people within the PF who caused a lot of damage and injury to his reputation, people who insulted him, people who did a lot of things to damage the brand that he was carrying, and he still admitted them. As a matter of fact, he succeeded to project himself as very accommodating
and forgiving,
very forgiving.
Right.
And we had seen the former President Lungu, we had seen him even at events that was at the beginning of President Hakainde Hichilema's term, cordially attending, I think it was, the last was the funeral, I can't remember whose funeral that was, cordially attend at, in the company of the president, and all of us were saying to ourselves, that's the way things should be. So this is where the main point lies. However, with passage of time, it has now become clear that the reasons are not known. The reasons are not known. There were those rantings that we saw that the body will not be brought here because people will not allow HH to do rituals and things like that. It seems to, in fact, it is clear that there are some people who strongly believe these things. There are people who strongly in our society believe these things. So whether that is the main reason, we don't know. At the end of the day, President Lungu remains unburied because the family changed later on, is now insisting, has been insisting to bury him in South Africa against the practice of this country, against the wishes of the majority of Zambians. And Zambians have followed what the judges have been saying in their rulings, what the High Court of South Africa ruled, what other opinion movers have been saying about what should happen, what should have happened after President Lungu died. He should have been brought back to Zambia, be given full honors as a former president and buried. And this is why it's highly contradictory that Dr. Membe was saying he should allow his friend to be buried. Is it President Lungu, President Hakainde Hichilema, who is saying President Lungu should not be buried? No. In fact, the government is saying the body should be brought. We have an official funeral that is given a befitting send-off as a former head of state. That is the issue.
Right. President Hakainde Hichilema is not immune to misinformation or negative publicity himself, especially in the wave of AI. You know, the digital world right now, you see a video, you have to now think twice whether it's real or not real. How does the support system manage this misinformation and negative publicity around the president? Recently, someone posted him lying in a coffin. You know, and then again we saw a letter of resignation. How do you and your team help the president in that regard in terms of managing such misinformation?
I would modify the question a little bit.
Feel free.
In the sense that as presidential support system or program, we are not the main unit in terms of, for instance, when you talk about helping, like to advise the president and so on, there are systems in place that have been there for many, many years. You know, the state apparatus, the office of the president itself, and the president himself. Zambians did not elect a president who could not make even individual decisions, individually to make national decisions, because he needs the help of other people. President Hakainde Hichilema is very capable. And when you listen to him articulating his vision for this country, speaking at various fora, even his grasp of international matters, the leadership that he's providing, you can be sure that this is not a president that would say, unless there are people around him, unless the system is there, to continue reciting the do's and don'ts, he would make a mistake. Not at all. This is a president whose hands are very steady. You can trust his leadership.
Right.
You can believe in his judgment, and so on. Now, coming to what has been happening, that specific question, we all fall victims. But depending on the level of knowledge, the level of education, exposure, and so on, the immunity, also cascades as such. The immunity I'm talking about is immunity from misinformation. Yourself, for instance, when you see something on social media that President Hakainde Hichilema has resigned, I would think that my guess is as good as the guesses of people following this program, that your immediate reaction would be, it's not true. Because these things don't happen. These things don't happen in the world. The president or presidents don't just resign like that, because there's a country at stake. There's a country at stake. And you just can't have a statement on social media, him announcing that he has resigned. Like somebody working in Pakantemba, it could be a container where you sell cement, and then in the morning you send a text to your boss, Governing a country is not like that. So the way people know President Hakainde Hichilema and the system, the immediate reaction would be, it can't be true. The president could have addressed the nation. Could have addressed the nation. We could have heard about something drastic, something very bad happening, and the president maybe is incapacitated, and with those issues, surrounding issues, then decides to resign. There was no such a thing that had happened. So many people knew it's not true. But there are also, in terms of the levels of that immunity I was talking about, there are also many people who believed that.
They're gullible.
People believed that, unsuspecting members of our society. Similarly, there are people who saw that unfortunate, shameful, malicious AI image of the president in the coffin, believing that the president had died. Now, why would somebody in their right mind do such a thing? Now, when we go back, when we rewind the discussion over issues of cyber laws and so on, people were some people were very vocal that we didn't need them. Do they still feel the same way today, given what has happened in this short space of time? Even after the law was passed, do they still feel the same way? So one can be convinced that those who opposed it knew that they themselves or were part of a system that were determined to set this country on fire, to incite instability, to injure innocent individuals, including the president himself. Now, this is the issue. If these people can have this kind of audacity to go for the president in the manner they are doing, what more people like us? What more people like us? If you just go on my Facebook page, for instance, you see me posting something very innocent. I'm a church goer.
Or you are keeping quails.
Oh, I'm keeping close. Yeah. I'm happy you mentioned that because it means that you've been following.
Yeah.
I go to Mwembeshi to visit somebody at the prison there who has been very, very close to me. He's like a brother. He was a guest of honor at my wedding. I go to visit him. I take advantage to do some political work, visit some group there that has been working as members of PCT. And then I see a poster, somebody's keeping quails, selling, if I'm not mistaken, one at 30 kwacha and things like that. So, because I like to learn some of these things, and because I was in that space, I go and I find this man. He's at the farm. He lives in Osaka, in Chalala area, but he's at that farm. And I tell him I'm interested to see what he does. He takes me around and he convinces me to say, this is something good. Yeah. You are hands-on and you like to learn, so buy a few. So there and then I made the decision to buy a few. And I post these things because that's the kind of public space, the social media that we have. There are people who follow me. I've got, I think, something in the range of 110Ks. People who follow me, some get inspired by that. Others who are not able to talk to me directly, including relatives, know what I'm doing through that. But when you see what some people post in response to an innocent comment, non-political, not abusing anybody, you can see the level of malice. And some of them go to a point where it's clear that if they had an opportunity to not be seen by anyone, and it's just them, their group or himself or herself and me, they could do anything to eliminate me. The malice is just too much.
Having said that, how would you make of the political landscape currently in the country as we gear up for the elections? We'll be getting into the election season very soon. I'll add to this a question or a comment. I hosted Dr. Nevas Mumba, and he said one thing, that the only thing uniting the opposition is their hatred for President Hakainde Hichilema. Would you agree with that? But importantly, how would you rate the general political landscape and how that affects the social side of it?
Yeah, so what I just said notwithstanding, we are all agreeable as Zambians that we still have a vibrant political dispensation in this country where every Zambian is allowed to exercise their democratic rights to participate in debates, and robust debates for that matter. Right. It could be about the Constitution, it could be about delimitation, it could be about any issue that is of public interest. The Kakoso Bridge that was washed away, social media was awash with comments criticizing the quality of that work and so on. And when people are criticizing the quality of that work, well, some of them may not say it in a manner that is constructive, but the bottom line is that that's what you call providing checks and balances. If I'm given money as a contractor to build a section of a road, or indeed to repair a bridge, that is key to getting to Power FM. And that bridge, after only a few months, there is heavy rain or whatever happens, it collapses or it develops cracks. The people who use that bridge will be up in arms. Why? Because money was paid to provide the service to do that job.
Right.
And when you look at it from a broader perspective, doing that bridge is part of the development agenda that we are pushing as a country. When the bridge is washed away, a lot of inconvenience. There are a lot of losses economically.
Right.
So the environment is very vibrant, very, very vibrant. But we are always going to have people who are malicious. We are always going to have people who will have lost, or maybe 8 goes down, and there's only 2 minutes before the referee blows the whistle, and they have resorted to trying to injure the players clearly out of malice. You see this in games. A team has not played well. They've been walloped. They are down, maybe 4-1. And there is no reasonable chance that they can equalize, that they can recover. You see how sometimes such teams behave. There are players that just kicking and trying to break the legs of your players, and then the referee is under pressure to be producing red cards when the game should be ending. And even after the game ends, you see these people breaking chairs in a stadium. The unfortunate and shameful incidents that we saw recently in Kabwe, what we saw at Levi Mwanawasa, that was last year. I think that was a derby between Nkana and Power Dynamos. You see all that behavior. That human behavior is in many of us, and you see it in politics. And when people congregate in the opposition, the same way they behave, we see those people in a match where they feel aggrieved.
Right.
The same way they break chairs, the same way they start throwing stones, the opposition do it towards President Hakainde Hichilema, and they abuse him, they insult him, and so on.
Right.
Now, I must say that I was part of the opposition, just as much as I was part of the ruling party as a member of the PF. Yes, out of politicking, there are times when you say really things that you regret afterwards. You call each other names and so on. But when you are politicking in that manner, it shows. It shows, and sometimes your behavior later on, when, for instance, you admit that something good has been done by the ruling party, when you admit, for instance, that President Hakainde Hichilema, despite the challenges we had caused by drought, and I'm talking about load shedding that had its own economic ravages and so on, when you admit the other good things that he's doing, then people tend to forget the bad words that you could have said about that person, because then they know it's part of the game and things like that. But what we are seeing, such as what Dr. Membe is trying to propagate, is clearly motivated by malice, is clearly motivated by this propensity to get people to hate President Hakainde Hichilema. And that is happening on the part of some gullible people. But the majority of the people are not being affected. And that's why it's quiet. Some people may not even know that Dr. Fred Membe was arrested. It's quiet. Why is it quiet? Because they are busy thinking another one of their daughter, another one of their nieces may be recruited in the upcoming recruitment of health workers. They are busy trying to see how they can help their son, their daughter, who has relocated to Solwezi because they got a good job at Kansanshi, maybe they got a good job at Sharp 28, maybe at Mupani, maybe at KCM. They are busy thinking about how to account or indeed to use the money that they go through partial withdrawal. They are busy thinking about other things now that they have got an extra income, because they don't need to be sending meal allowances to their child, because the government has again taken up that responsibility. People are busy in this country. People are busy in this country doing all kinds of things. And that's why you see even on my page, there's a lot of politics there. I share a lot of things that the president says. Yeah. I share a few things. This program is being streamlined there. It's political and so on. But the aggregate of everything that I post, there's more about productivity. And not that I am more productive than any Zambian. By the way, even the field of maize that I have is a small one, just in the backyard.
It looks like a huge farm, Father. I saw that.
Yes, in the backyard. But I must say that I get enough. Yeah. We get enough maize so that we don't buy milling. And I've not been buying milling for the last 3 years.
Okay. I'll open phone lines, but as I do, maybe I'll just ask you, because I know some of the callers will come through from both sides. Some with complaints, others supporting, of course, and of course are commending that so far so good. But in your view, how can you rate the performance of the UPND in the 4 years they've been in government in terms of they're achieving their promises, and looking at it from the side of the electorate? Would you say they're in for another, obvious win for come August?
We cannot say that as UPND we are lucky that the major challenges came during the first years of the term, in the sense that those challenges shouldn't have been there in the first place. Shouldn't have been there in the first place. However, with hindsight and with that qualification I have made, we can still say, for lack of a better term, that we as a party are lucky that the major challenges that this country faced, that had a negative impact on our performance and rating, happened during the first years of our term. Right. What are these challenges? You're talking about debt burden. That was inherited. And we were able, as UPND, under the able, the innovative, the negotiating skills of the head of state, President Hakainde Hichilema, were able to achieve debt restructuring. So this country didn't need to give up any assets, such as ESCO. This country didn't need to go on its knees because of lack of money to put medicines in hospitals, provide free education, continue with the social protection initiatives, and so on, because debt restructuring was achieved. And with the support of the IMF stabilizing the economy, but more because of the local initiatives to fix the economy. And that's why now, only a few years working with IMF, the message coming from President Hakainde Hichilema, the message coming from Ministry of Finance, Bank of Zambia, from our financial experts and so on, the message is clear that we have been able to stabilize ourselves within a short time, and therefore the support that we have been getting should be reduced so that we can be weaned, so that we can graduate as quickly as possible. That was the major problem. But then came in another deadly D, starting with debt, and then another deadly D, which was the drought. That was the major problem this government experienced, because drought depleted our energy generation capacity, and that clearly has its own ramifications in terms of the survival of our people, all of us, because we are part of our society, in terms of our livelihoods. That was the major problem. All these things are now behind us. It has been raining very well, and we quickly got into the space where we started talking about for the first time, an expression that maybe we had even stopped using. So now we are saying for the first time, copper production has gone up, reaching over 1 million tons per year, setting us on a steady path towards achieving 3 million tons per annum by 2030. For the first time, in terms of the reforms and God being on our side in the agriculture sector, recording the highest harvest of maize, which created, unfortunately, UPND being a victim of its own success and God's blessings, of course, which at the end of the day created another problem. Because the government, again, out of prudent leadership, and in this case, we still continue, allow me to digress a little bit, we still continue to commend President Hakainde Hichilema and his leadership and to ask them not to relent. Next time we have a bump harvest such as we're going to have now, not to say we are not going to mop up all the maize, because if we delay to pay the farmers, there will be a backlash. Because that's what happened.
Right. Father, allow me, it's funny, because obviously we have a lot of people that follow this program and they know the numbers, so both my lines have been buzzing. So maybe let's rope in our listeners and viewers, but for the benefit of those that have not tuned in yet and it's the first time, you can get us on 0955-997-997 or 0979-192-485. I'll go through those again, 0955-997-997, 0979-192-485. Yeah, so we can maybe if you just put on your headset so that you're able to get our contributors as I pick up the first call. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Hello, good morning. Talka Bruno, please tell us your name and where you're calling us from.
I can't hear the call.
You can't hear the call?
No.
Okay, all right, so maybe I'll, as we, okay, this is Mark Angela. Hello, Mark Angela, please try and call back again. The line is quite bad. Are you
maybe she can remain on the line. She may not manage to get through.
Hello.
Hello, Mark Angela. Okay, please try. No, I'm sure she'll call. She's one of our ardent callers.
Please, thank you.
All right, let's try this other caller. Hello, good morning.
Hello?
Hello, good morning. Can you hear this?
I can't hear the call.
Good morning.
Hello, good morning.
Yeah, General Chongo calling from Kabwe.
Can you hear that? General Chomba from Kabwe?
Yeah. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning. Are you able to get that, Father?
I'm General Chongo calling from Kabwe.
General Chongo from
you,
Kabwe.
yes,
You
thank
can
you.
hear. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, please go ahead with your contribution, General Chongo.
Bwalya mwashibukeni wa Frank Bwalya.
Mwashukeni ba General Chongo.
Mkwaye twavuka ba Frank Bwalya ninkwatako amepusho bamembelelo mwabapero mulandu wa cyber crime bushenga balya abaebere ababemba abashakalimati bali badawo mu poverty mind kukasama ku northern province nabo te cyber nga balya abatire akatumbi kakwa lungu elo lungu afiro kumchitasa kamusaizi. Is that not a crime? Nga balya abaebere bakatolika ti they are Lucifers, they crime. Secondly, Frank Bwalya, when you were in PF, you were criticizing the HH Kutata Bakatekepo. Now what has come special today to praise the HH who has failed to give the Zambian high cost of living and 3 meals a day and 50 kwacha and 250 fertilizer, but still lying to the Zambian people? In conclusion, vakalamba va Frank Bwalya epo mwafumina kuchechi tamulande fishinka ku bantu abena Zambia abalechula nakwisha General Chongo.
All right, that's General Chongo from Kabwe.
You need to help me understand what he was trying to say, because the headphones are not working.
Okay, let me ask someone please come and help us with the headphones. Let's try
I was
this.
only able to catch faintly from there.
From there, okay. Can you hear this? Hello, good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning. Is that audible?
This is the voice of Chesemano calling you from Kabwe.
It's who?
Chesemano calling you from Kabwe.
Are you able to pick that?
Yes, I've heard him saying he's calling from Kabwe.
Okay, please go ahead with your contribution.
Yes, this is Chesemano calling you from Kabwe. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Just speak up, please. Just speak up, please.
Okay, thank you very much. You have actually enlightened well, Mr. Chama, concerning the issue of the retirement of burial of our late President
Edgar Chagwalungu. And also we have touched on the issue of cyber security that we have implemented as a government. The question number one to you, Mr. Chama, is what measures are you going to put in place to that person who posted that HH is lying in the coffin? Because it's also anchored on the public interest in terms of governing. There is no racial discrimination and racial segregation. What measures are you going to put in place to make sure that that person is also apprehended because he did an awful situation? The second question is, since you said the decision making now is actually being, we are just waiting to hear from the head of state to us what is going to say about the burial section of our president. Why is it so that you do have the Department of Presidential Advisors? Why can't you also come in and advise to let it go? Since we're talking about Zambia is a Christian nation, why is he failing not to release it to make sure that that person is buried in a very dignified manner? This ceremonial activity is being undertaken. I submit and I shall look forward to hear from your ruling. Thank you, Mr. Chomba.
All right, thank you very much. So maybe I'll allow you to respond to the two General Chongo simply just calling you out, sir, that you were in opposition and you were castigating President HH, but now you're on his side. So how can one trust you? You are a former priest, so therefore you should always speak the truth.
There are no lies in terms of why people should trust me. There are no lies that I'm telling here. There are no lies. And if there are any lies, you should have pointed out those lies. It is true that this country was debt-burdened. That debt was accrued to all of us. The UPND inherited it. That's the truth. It is the truth that this government has achieved debt restructuring. It is the truth that Mulungushi Textiles is back. There has been testing of the machines there, and it will soon be launched. So I'm not too sure what lies they're talking about. But there will always be the same thing we're talking about, the malice of the people. And some of the people believe that they are able to dictate what a certain individual citizen should do in this country. For instance, which political party they can belong to, and that they can only belong to one political party and stay there. Those are their wishful thinking. Every citizen in this country has their right to belong to a political party of their choice. President Edgar Chagwalungu belonged to the UPND. He left, joined the PF. That was his democratic right. Mr. Michael Chilufya Sata, may so rest in peace. He was in UNIP, where he joined MMD. He left to form his own political party, the PF. And that was his democratic right. But he also, I heard faintly, he also talked about, I think a minister also who may have insulted some people of a certain region, what happened to him, something like that. And I'm not, I'm being very, very truthful. I can't clearly hear what the people are saying because the phone is very low and my headphones are not working. So, Chombo, don't think that I'm pretending. That's the truth.
I won't blame you on that.
Yes.
Let's try and attempt to pick up the call. Hello, good morning.
Wonderful. Now I can hear.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Okay, hello, good morning. Hello, good morning.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Please tell us your name and why you're calling us from. We've got Father Frank Bwalya in studio this morning.
Good morning, my reader. This is Mr. Musanje from Kanyama Central, Zambia.
Good morning, Bamusanje.
Let me continue. Wameneka bila Bible, my reader. Utikuli mfamela anachanga mbele ya bwino. Omanaende sabi kwa kankao kangono. Atuza mjana achanga mbele uyoipa. Ndiye time marume. Aba bantu, omuwauze hapa kutindani pa mungushi hapa. Wakaone ezakuza utsira zaenda omubakatala kukaka mbautia isituviona ndiye kufuna komene bafuna. That's why Bible ikambira kuti osakala muntu wokwinyirira kwa ochome duma niwe kwinyirira ndiwe uchinja manje usebenzesa ngosengo wamba kusebenzesa mafiri wamba kusebenzesa mimba. Ndiye bamene visitika wati mwawa bamene bakulira kuti 4 years bantu niwo kwiya wala wako aenda mahala ku school
hapo yaliyo kutaja basi wakakamba uzifred education and student mimi ndio mfua bwana awe mwagwira ntito sentence na mbuni nakutita jabe nikupitiriza ndimuwe vamene mumanga sipobisa ituko kwa sababu sasa mpaka mbranke bakati zimera bene bage bakaisha kusanga wakafika kukembe wafika kuno bazaona kutaa jamene wanakanza kumanga tumwao chati wani wiki bana tupata kwa kwenda ku school.
Okay, Ram Sanje, please hurry with your contributions.
In conclusion, Bwalya itirizani kuleta right aba bantu bo kwiya simuzaba kwalisa mugaba konka tizalepera bale kujifunga kukwiya na ebe ni matenda. One day bazazipeza mavuto vile bage ziko.
Okay, thank you. We'll pick another caller. Good morning.
Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Kwa Ivana Chota Junior from Kabwe.
Bana Chito?
Ya pocha te bonte mwali uko.
Okay, tuani.
Bana Chota.
Bwalya.
Okay.
Bwalya bonde push. Bwalya balungu bale wala mwali ku. Faku mwakeno kuipisa ba eta bisanishi muleka tirefi. Yekeni bale ya kuisa kosti. But pali mwelero chaanguka. Kalanda chumfe mpundo kwa shifuna muntu wali msamba kimuti. So imwe kwalifiro kontola ba HH ema chashupa kancheri charengere bale kandano kula ndi chashupia sane chashupa saka chala muri balungu chinchi chote twakumi nepofi kisa chike febe na zami Bwalya yabale fwa balungu nakali tena ngabale bafwaya ngatire konka Bible imwe ne fumye nfesi cha mwindi nsojeni kabo somulole chepambi fisheri chabamembe oleda akale muno muzambia bengi batukana balungu babashani bataba neno oli ku opposition muli fast kuikata inga baba ipena abantu lero baba kunze batopera bachangola mu mjeri kimo kyonze mule pitamo nokutontonkanya yebelele nyo mfumika be mwanene ikimule tatakiwezi napo mule bali balungu ngamulekeresi.
Okay, thank you. All right, maybe we can make comment as we wait for more callers.
Thank you. The second caller, from Kukabwe. Sorry, Bachelanda po something about you who are coughing, lower pangile photo. What are you going to do about him? I think the suspect has been arrested and the law should take its course. It's not our responsibility as UPND to arrest somebody except in cases, rare cases where you may effect a citizen's arrest.
Right.
But it's the law of the police. It is our responsibility, it's our duty to complain and even report cases of breaking the law.
Right.
Then about the burial, I think he also said, what, if I'm not mistaken, what are you doing to ensure that late President Lungu is buried? The ball is in the court of the family. The courts in South Africa, the court in South Africa ruled what is sensible, what is in line with the law, with culture, with common sense, that President Lungu's body should be brought back to Zambia, be buried in Zambia according to our traditions and law, and be given a befitting send-off as the head of state. That was the gist of that judgment. But the family still wanted to bury him in South Africa. And that's why they have gone to court. So who is prolonging this matter? It's the family that has gone to court. If the family today say, okay, we are taking we are not appealing, and we want to sit down with government to arrange the repatriation of the body so that President Lungu can be buried here, we are going to have a breakthrough. Then concerning offices of the political advisors to the president, the church and other institutions and so on, as I said at the beginning, techintu changuka, because it's a death. And once the family are fixed on a certain rigid position and we fail to agree, then you resort to courts of law. Otherwise, if we had agreed at that point, there was no need to resort to go to the courts of law. And people should not forget that the government did not go to court just to sue the family that had no problem with bringing the body of President Lungu to be buried in Zambia. The government quickly went to court because the family and other people wanted to bury President Lungu in South Africa. And people should not deliberately forget what happened. On that same day when the court was sitting to make a ruling, people were also sitting in church, including our own Bishop Dr. Alik Banda, who had traveled there to have the church service. The body was not there, it was not brought. According to how a church, a Catholic church mass is done, the body is brought, and when you are having that funeral service, I think even other churches, it's the same, the body has to be there. But that did not happen. We don't know why. We may know the reasons in future, but for now we don't know. That's what happened. So it's not easy. And the government is not to blame for this impasse. So let's wait for the court process in South Africa, because the family has appealed, and after that we'll decide, Zambians should decide what should be the way forward. Right. But even in that case, if the family insists, it may prolong. Bamusanje, thank you very much for the words that you have said. Indeed, there are some people who are malicious. It doesn't matter what this government does, they always oppose. That's part of democracy. And to a certain extent, as long as they're just opposing because they want to have an opportunity to govern, we should celebrate that. The problem is when such people begin to resort to illegal, malicious, and shameful activities, such as, for instance, trying to cause alarm by creating false photos of the president in a coffin, of course, basically wishing him dead. That one should be condemned. Then banachota mwanjipusha muti bushelo balungu bale lwala mwalikwi kweno muntu mbiwa kweba tilimbitaka nshwa bwino ngamvu yoli ne question kuti chamwe kato mutima ukuthi ngaba bwalya balikwi so momulenje bokweba ati former president ngale lwala inene wakwa Bwalya nekafuanda ine ninebo ningaya imini na pakati pano okutira chitenifi takwaba mukwa ibana chota mwitu chita mislead. Former president alikwata ma conditions of service under the constitution. Ba president Lungu bali tumini kalata ku cabinet office ukweba ba cabinet office ukutira balefwayo kuya ku treatment ku South Africa. Ba cabinet office bali elero kweba chisuma twala afirisha pakutira muleya balungu abalebo mbana balungu ba doctor bali lembere kalatu ko ba government kutira tatulefwaya mutu wafu mu musangoli wonse ila kalata twale mbere kumishibisha fye ukutira balungu bali nokuya ku South Africa ku treatment nomba mwalefwaya ba government bapatikisha okutira yo ifo twala funyefi na fimbi umuntu mwine nakana takwaba iyo bantu agenda kuchitika chimo ngabatile kanje cyo bakoselepo balefwaya kumwipaya ngefyo mwa mfire bambano kutira yo balungu bafire bali bapere poison na fimbi kanchapo bakene bali basuminisha okuya bali lina ku South Africa eko bafuirire bambo balego kweba ati yo babasuminisha bwangu ngata bafuire. That's why bana chota tufuire to arusha na pali Bible whether tuliabomi nangu natufwa tuli bantu bakwalesa ero apo twikele ubuyanuma ubwakulatiro omuntu ngafo kamufi pabe umo eulowele twali monana pakati palandesu yankulufu wanyama ati echitaleme. They take the body of a deceased member of the community in the coffin, and then they start running around pretending that the coffin is directing these people to where the one who is responsible for that death, who has bewitched this person is, and then they run around the community. They'll go and bump into the house of somebody and claim kutu waipe. Ero abantu baise chitinta ngombe bututu batowenganda baipana uli muntu bututu bwa chipeshamano nisha abantu mu community bali munano kutulo omuntu alirwala necho alwala bali chishiba necho alwala bambiri ndiale kafyo umuti wa ARVs for instance eko uli mfipatala na mu shops uli but umuntu ale ko muno kuno wa ARVs no bamupera limbi ashitisha alano na lutuku ngaisa afuati pali wa mwipa ya community mwatu nokutira echitaleme mwabika body mumbokosho mwalipira na balumendo kutira mupitemo pakutira tumuno wa mwipe. All that is not correct. So you cannot claim that President Lungu, nothing was done for him when he was sick and so on. He refused government support and he was allowed to travel to go and have treatment. So tetifibombe na kadia iyo.
Yeah. Let's pick up some of Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Hello.
Hello?
Hello, good morning. Tell us your name and you're calling us from quickly.
Yes, I'm calling from Kavu.
Okay, go ahead.
What's the name again?
Chalwe Kaume calling from
Charlotte. Please go ahead with your contribution.
Yeah. Plan to what I'm about to say.
Mwashuke ni wakaume, not Chaume.
Chalwe Kaume, Navango.
Tumichinje tumilike Chaume.
What is not clever in this Chava? Kulava, Madiana, Nakasha, and the Rosan of America. Chalo Kaume, one and Chalo Kaume. Plan to go to Sana Protesta. When to English and Mississippi Valley. Mwalela ndile chalo kati nyoku nino kula ndile pabanka wale chula. Ile mwari kito mwari kuleje chengele. Mwari kwa mane je kuleje chengele. China nende kito mwari chengele shangi. Pamona bayo bisingani. Ile mwase kana programu isu machana. Ile mwalela ndila kwa abantu. Bankan ba fulani tuwalia ngesi amutuwalia pa nyumba ichalo nga chiripantanshi. Mwari kwete ile programu mwari tulokobati ati ululungirwa mulanda kukakata
iyo mkwali watu wala pa wingi tona ula
watu wala pa wingi tona ula ni shinomba ba imundiro baneteka basata ni shibali mu position abareta ba PX ni shilipatso kwa mbaketi nalo ni totela sana kai mwalolangira abantu mwaliru bula abantu kubuchushi ile elo ba fulani Bwalya mwaisa kiribukira abantu ukutampo okulangira abantu abalechula ukwamba okulachitikisha pansambu shabo amubapira pine na lelo bafulanki Bwalya pamona bane batumba ichalo nga chiripanta shichabipa mwali kiribukira lesa elo lesa kamikanda elo shempa kuchushibwa abantu noti mwelanda kibaye chechi bali kebuno basite buno mushiranshi abantu balechula angu mwatulanda pali lungu kista bamulekere tokwa toke kintu alanda tetulekoku kwakwa kabiye ngali mkunkulu kintu bamukanishe batanka n'abamusipire kiriya pa airport nshito lungu ngali mkunkulu nga lero alawa amashani mu kitundu nga lero kintu balatwalira bamukampwiro akukoti busheti teti mwebukisheti akisile bananikani bamwana wasa baswele basata kuhospito iyo bali mu opposition ushebaeketi kuti basitapesi eno nombayimwe mwavula mwafumana mu party yenu mwana mukusapota party yekyusha abantu era mulekera tirike bwino mube pali one party state state mulekere ba opposition abene balela ndo watyalande kwati leto mumensumeko ira imwe mu opposition no bali muluri party nyani batwala ko kujere tapanya ngumu anomba abali ku opposition yabapanga pemirani mwavula cyber law mwalesera ba opposition era imwe ba plan Bwalya lokula imina kubantu abakumyeno nabene bo batuka no kwata no kwalira tababe mbata bakwata amano yetu bali kujere papulo tota ba plan Bwalya ba plan Bwalya mutumiro mbata kukeresa bwekele ni kuchinse cha kwalesa le saka mikanda ero imwe mwo basandire bakonka mupulo namona we tsabe mu ba plan Bwalya pamona bane ba number.
Thank you very much. We'll take one last call, then you can respond. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Hello, good morning. Buno Bunch.
Bueno.
Yes. Mama Angela? Okay. Please go ahead with your...
Bwalya mulibwa?
Mchiribwe na Mama Angela.
Bwalya simutandizira ife mapoa Zambiani. I think interest yanu imwe munakonga chabe mukudia mu UPND.
I think the caller, this caller should not be allowed. The caller should learn not to abuse the guest.
Yeah.
The caller should be guided not to abuse, because if she's going to be abusing me on this program, then she's missing the point of the program.
Okay, Mama Angela.
And what Mama Angela does, I know her. What she does, she'll come on a program like this. Before you know it, she's just abusing. She records this, and then they put it on social media. Oh, Father Bwalya told us, Father Bwalya told us. Stick to the issues on the table.
Okay, Mama Angela,
Stick to the issues on the table.
Ask the question. Kambani first. Ask the question.
Mukambati ba president wa HH basebenza maringi. Cost of living muiona mwamene ilili high. Olo marodi ane mupanga muyaona kuti yasiyana na PF. ba PF anamanga malodi olimba vipatala vioneka na imwe muona imwe CDF yanu istavichani nenzeri ku Western Province kwatu Lusaka yamene mwezo kwamba tumpanga road from Lusaka to Mongo kali chabe pakati kahafu chileke kukamba babwali babwala tifunika takuza nchilungamwe mwamanja mu PF olopane mukamba pamaliro y'abalungu asembe anashikiwa kudala ija agreement ane banamverana na ba Patrick Kangwa na ba family sembe banashika kudala but ba president bamere futi wanapopanga vinango beso maona i process ya fukapali ushebende wakakambatisiwa bafuna simunga bauza tibaleke ni bantu bashike usheba family wanakala kushika kwa embassy paki ni boma yanu inapanga makuti kulibe kwenda ku airport makadi kuwamba opanga tumalamulo tuna ngutetu tunalingesa kuti maliro y'abalungu yafike pali ino time lero yane mukamba pali bamembe kuti bamembe anakamba kuti amene wanakamba bamembe nangai mwamene wenzo kamba malusfazi ba Catholic ma ministers akatumbi bene ndani kana aba bene bikironi bonse muba kocha betenzoona papa masho mazina ene banaitaniwa balungu ni ambiri waisi wagwiriwa ima mulitabe bize kugula tabe wamina zaka mbali mpo position agwiriwa
okay so, please wind up
chiwamira galu kuluma mbuzi noti benanga it's not good na governance and just kamba tipase 18 August muchoka hapo
zikomo Makiangela. So further I'll apologize on our behalf, but please go ahead and respond and then we can
yes I will not comment on anything that Makiangela said because our intention was not to have a conversation. Our intention was not to exchange ideas. Our intention was clearly to abuse.
Right.
And these are the people who are making, sometimes when you listen to one or two, who are making even programs like this look like they are platforms for malice and just throwing salvo poison at other people. So I will ignore. I will ignore. But Chalwe, I would have ignored him looking at what he said at the end, but he made some relevant points that are worth responding to at the beginning. So for that matter, I will respond to him. But Sakaya Mukanda and so on and so forth. Tetimbaseke yo, because level of education ya wapafia kwa lesa, lindepo ya pera popeni. According to him, umuntu ngaleka bufala nge finale kele, lesa kutamu chita judge, that person will go to hell. I don't believe that. And my church, the Catholic Church, does not believe that. And that's why when I asked to leave the priesthood, I was even given a letter to allow me to marry. And when I go into church after having our marriage solemnized, there is no one who is going to say, imwete mufike kuchintamba, pantu mwalitipwa, pantu mwalifuma kuchinso chakwalesa. Not at all. And then the way you are trying to paint Lesa, if you have lesa yo, even umano wa luviro wa ilepo sefiuma, mwangashi and so on Yowela. The image of God that we are given is somebody who celebrates the homecoming of a child,
right?
Of that child. So if you much like if you have to try yo mama that shibombe, then you were saying muletire filifia wino, filifia wino. Kutina eba shani no gutire filifia wino. El president umwine uonde chitira campaign ale tuwevo kwebati ifintu tafiadi wino, fimo tafidi wino na nombadine tuwevo mbelapo. Kutina eba shana tifintu filifia wino. The challenges are there. What we are saying is that this government has demonstrated commitment. The bad days are behind us. Elo chalengere makamaka ni drought. Na debt burden iraine. Mumusango umo ila debt burden na nombaline. Na ile tuchitefironda mulandu wakwebati government inga yapoke ndalama chila mwenshi. Yapoke nda through ba ZRA and so on. Liyabale ya kanyapu isha kufolesha ama teachers, isha kubika emiti mfipatala, isha kubika kuli school feeding program, isha kule misebo na findi, ni ishumbi na iminila kunu mane mbale uankongole, ukuta you have to service the debt. So this government is servicing the debt, treli pilenko ngole shiria, isho ba PF bashile. Na popende balatira, yo mletira PF bashile ngole, nomba bashile ngole, niba nani? No, bali kule misebo tatureba tutawakulira misebo tatureba tutawakulira ma hospitals. As a matter of fact, some of the money that were monies that were borrowed to build Lindi, let's say, hospital, this government continued with those projects. When you talk about Chifu level 1 hospital into the president in the Chilemabai Leisula, into Atampire by PF but bafiro kupusha ndalama shapwa mulandu wakutira inkongole shali fulisha and then the country defaulted and all these things. But yonsama projects yakutira kawamina abantu, this government reassessed them where there was an exaggeration in terms of the cost kwabokala panchina wa contractor ukusuminishanya, and those projects continued. Now I think he also Maki Angela Bachilai Batawa anybody Misebo Mulekula, I think they may not make that mistake. So then you're talking about talking for the people. But Charweka Ume Teveka Muzambia Eko Balina Bambia Bantu Aba Ishuo Kweba, to speak for people you have to be against government, you have to be against the president. To speak for the people you need to be using harsh words against the government. That is not true. Munyinane, if your life yava, you would agree with me. If I'm part of a system, I'm part of the company of somebody who should help you, what do? You go to that person. Mwaisa kudini. Abakalamba, boss will not issue an info bali kwa taka track. Edwiding kala kopa beot. Ingo atakuka fridge ndifo kula ishaba mayo. Tetu munombereko. Efe tuwa ikala mchaba. Then I will tell you, okay, I will talk to the boss. Whenever the truck is going in that direction, maybe empty or whatever, we can find space for you. So people cannot claim that you can only talk for the people if you are against government. It's not true. So if I was able to talk for people that time, when I was not supporting the ruling party, that is the MMD, it's not correct to say now that I'm part of the ruling party I can't speak for the people. Ngati yani shinali part of PF nishita mwareda ndio kutoa mwachita bandoni abantu mwambo kulalandra ba PF. Then talking about abantu kuchula, abantu muchalo bale chula mumisango ya pusana nama causes yantu ya pusana ushira chakwate nchito kuti abatale chula tatulekana ukwete nchito umupali bali more than 50, close to 50,000 ama teachers abo ba government bachitire employ ubuchushi bwa chepako. But now ine teteba ti obuchushi bwa pwilirira pantulimbi ilo tala kwate nchito aleikala pali banyina na bawishi nangu aleikala kuli banalume. And after being posted, this person, for argument's sake, goes to Itej or goes to Nakonde or goes to Mwinilunga Pantwekuli space. Not fola. But still more arechula in the sense that now you have to pay for rent, you have relocated, some of your survival mechanisms have remained there. So life in general is very challenging. And that's why people are supporting President Hakainde Hichilema, because he's looking at the broader picture. Let's fix the economy, because it's a good economy that delivers the essential needs of the people. It's a thriving economy that provides more opportunities, especially for young people. Let's fix the mining sector, because then if we are going to increase our copper output and we are even adding value to that copper, we grow the economy. The kwacha is going to be strong. It means that more and more people, as we've seen, Kukitwe, Kunoku, Kupamaketi, Mutauni, abantu balea ku South Africa, abantu balea ku Malaysia, abantu balea ku China, because now it's affordable because the kwacha has dropped. People are importing, ngamapita mutauni ngani muno mulusaka. Why are those vehicles in this country and being sold like that? Why? Because the kwacha has dropped and people have more capacity now to use their strong kwacha to buy US dollars and import these goods, sell them and make a bit of money. Yes, that's true. Some of them kutibachula, mulandu wakutila limbi, for various reasons. We are not refusing that. And you see, it's good that the president acknowledges this, because then it pushes him even to do more to address the challenges of these people.
Right. Father Frank Bwalya will be winding up, and I'll just apologize to the callers that we ran out of time. So, because I know calls will not, because I keep ringing. But I think I want to end with one last question. Maybe you can just tell us how ready is the president and the government, the UPND, for this year's elections, based on, yes, on one side we face challenges, they face challenges to fulfill the promises, but on one side they've also come through with flying colors on some promises. But all in all, how do you look at their preparedness towards this year's elections?
A good guest doesn't change or evade the question, but allow me to be a bad guest for once.
No, maybe between my legs. So you know the question. So answer the real question.
Yes. So allow me to be a bad guest for the first time and rephrase the question or answer a wrong question. When was the UPND ready for re-election and re-election and so on?
Yeah.
Immediately it formed government. That's why it brought a plan that would make that happen. The plan of economic stabilization, the plan of job creation, the plan of industrialization, the plan of sanity, political sanity in all spaces, the plan of strong institutions, the plan of one Zambia, one nation, working together. But that plan, of course, was disturbed by the drought. It was impacted negatively by debt, which this government inherited, but the UPND government was ready that time and is more ready now because the bad days are behind us. God has been on our side. The right policies have been implemented, and things are looking good, not only in terms of the economic fundamentals, inflation coming down to 7.5, but generally things are looking good and Zambians are responding positively. About Mendo, ngakumafena kamoto kanono, babos mukamperende kabombela. Mendo ngamunafika katraki nimitekowe wimini pofie, bamdanga mampela kakashi ni so much pay. People are ready to work because they know that the president can support vulnerable people, the president can provide opportunities, cash for work and all these things, but at the end of the day, we all have to develop our country, we all have to work hard.
Right. I know I said that would be my last question, but I've just remembered mentally.
And thank you for allowing me to be a bad guest.
Yeah, but you know, we didn't expect this, but we have, I don't know what you can call it, US-Israel war with Iran, which we can't hide the fact that as a country, a third world country, developing country such as Zambia and most parts of Africa are going to be affected. How does that impact our preparations for this election? And especially government, you know, fishing on a high towards the closure of parliament in about 60 days.
It's very, very unfortunate. We see this happening in our lives. You are planning for a wedding. You have contributed money, you are going to have the most colorful wedding, then your father has a stroke or your mother-in-law has a stroke, and they have to be taken to an expensive hospital for them to live. You can't say, Shindaramasha wedding. Your wife-to-be may have been planning to fly to some country to go and get the best wedding dress. You can't say this has to be done. At the end of the day, you begin to focus on this situation because it affects you. Government is in that space. But an economist has said, and I think even Dr. Chikwanda, who is an energy expert, forgive me if you should forgive me if I'm going to quote him wrongly, talking about the preparedness of Zambia in terms of unprecedented high foreign reserves that this country has achieved under the UPND. That with that 5 months, if I'm not mistaken,
yes,
5 months, which is about $5.5 billion US dollars, it means that that conflict, if it doesn't last too long, Zambia will still be stable. And I also remember watching Andrew Chibuye, the country partner for
Price Waterhouse.
Yes, Price Waterhouse, and I knew his father was also in that space career and so on. Even talking about the price of maize, saying that he makes his own. So now, those are offices where you don't get peanuts at the end of the month, highly paying jobs. And the man occupying that job office is talking about and so on. Right. So that situation is very regrettable, very, very regrettable. There's a lot of insecurity in the world, and our Pope Leo made reference about it. We pray and we call upon the warring factions that a solution needs to be done, a more sensible solution to this escalation about nuclear weapons and so on. We need to have a world that is safe. And the President, Dr. Hakainde Hichilema, has made it very clear: instability anywhere is instability everywhere.
Right.
The gains that we have in this country may be reversed to a certain extent by what is happening there. But at the end of the day, people are also dying. So the President is very categorical about the human suffering that war is creating as well.
Right. No, thank you so much for that statement, Father Bwalya, and also thank you for coming through the political podcast.
Thank you. I just want to say, if you allow me, just take a small point.
Go ahead.
To call us like Chalwe Kaume,
yes.
Chalwe Kaume, Mai Angela. They owe you something. That when you have a guest like this, for them to promote this kind of dispensation we have in the country, there should be a certain level of respect. We are not stopping them from speaking. We are not. We are not. Even Bakaume, I didn't say stop them, but I know about my Angela. And I knew the direction she would go, and then she would record and things like that. There is no need. Let us respect one another. Let us cherish these opportunities to discuss, and let's discuss national matters.
Of course.
No personal attacks, attacking President Hakainde Hichilema, putting him in the coffin when he has not died. Criticize his policies and tell us what you would have done or your party would have done if it were their turn.
Right. No, thank you for that. I'm sure they're listening, and hopefully next time they'll be a bit more kind to my next guest. But once again, thank you so much for coming through.
Pleasure.
All right. So this has been a political podcast on the 4th of March, 2026. My name is Yowela Chomba. Hope to see you again next week. Have a good day.